October is obviously the perfect month for scary movies. After my September happy, sunny sunflower theme, I wanted to go into October with a bit of a twist. Now, it's not new for me to have my October theme be inspired by film. Last year, my October theme was inspired by Beetlejuice. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will link it in the description down below. But before we start, can we please get some appreciation for these nails? I saw a picture on Pinterest, showed it to my nail tech, and she did an absolute banging job replicating those nails. So thanks to her. Now we are about halfway through the month. I'm not gonna lie, I am very aware that I've been behind on most of my journal updates, and I really have no excuse, but life happens. So thanks for sticking around. I really hope to get back on track within the next few months. But like I said, we're already halfway through October, and my husband and I have been watching quite a few horror movies. We've so far finished the first 4 of the Scream movies, which of course, when I thought of this theme, I had just watched the first one and thought it's a perfect theme for October, and continued to watch the other 3 after that. Now, I must confess there are a lot of drawings and a lot of coloring in bold letters, so a lot of lettering in this setup, so I am going to be skipping past some of it. You'll still be able to see what I do and how I do it, and I try not to just fast forward over a lot of the footage, which I definitely could have done. I could have just gone zip through all of it, but I don't know, I don't really like the look of that in the videos. Speaking of horror movies, what's better than a good horror movie quote? So this setup is definitely filled with a lot of quotes. For the cover page of this October setup, on the first page I have the quote from the movie. Then on the next page I added some black paper, just normal stock paper. I first went in with a pencil to draw the ghost face. Next, I'm using my white Jelly Roll pen to go over the areas that are white, making sure to leave some empty spaces for highlights, giving the effect that this is the mask that you see before you see the full figure, like the masked killer coming out of the darkness. Ooh. I do want to apologize if I sound a little nasally. I am, I think, starting to get a little bit sick, which is not great because it's October and I have so much to do, so much to plan, so many exciting little crafts I want to do. So hopefully it's something that doesn't stay too long and passes quickly. Speaking of little crafts, you might have noticed my pumpkins. I have 2 little clay pumpkins and my pumpkin candle holder, and I made that last year for Halloween. And I also made a kind of a DIY video about how you can make them. So if you're interested in making these with some air dry clay, I will also put the link to that video in the description down below. This was a really fun drawing to do. It took quite a while just because, I'm using a pen to do it. But I did have the original Dracula playing on my computer in front of me. So while I was doing this, I was also watching some scary movies. What do you tend to do while you're journaling, like while you're setting up your journal? Do you prefer listening to music? Do you watch something on TV? Maybe an audiobook? I've done that before. That's quite nice. Or do you do it in silence? If you do, I have no idea how you do that. With the same Jelly Roll pen, I next went on to the month title, October, in bold bleeding letters. Moving on to the second spread in this setup, I have my classic calendar spread. So this is a double page spread where I include the calendar for the month. This is also where I just kind of plan for my month, put down any important dates that are happening, any birthdays that are happening, holidays as well, of course. I also usually do a little bit of a work tracker, if you will, just to say on which days I am working. Now, to be fair, this is of course a planner, but since last month, if you haven't seen my September setup, I only set up for September at the end of the month because we'd been on a holiday and I hadn't had time, and I just didn't want my journal not to have a September. I didn't want to skip it. So instead of a planner in a bullet journal style, I went instead for more of a memory keeping journal where I had this same calendar in there and I wrote down as I would for planning, but more in, the aftermath. So after everything had happened, and I really enjoyed using it. I also included a thoughts section in that in September, and I liked it. I liked the memory keeping aspect aspect of it, and being able to look back and see what kind of hobbies I did during those months, and maybe like a little bit of a section where I wrote about anything fun or important or memorable that happened during that month. And I really, really enjoyed doing that, and I think it's going to be such a nice way to look back on my journals instead of just, storing them away and never looking at them again. Now it has a little bit more of a significance to it. So I think that this might be something that I continue with in the future. I also have a weekly journal where I do really more the traditional bullet journal planner, schedule out my weeks. I have a different journal for that. So this journal was starting to lose its appeal to me, other than the fact that I really enjoy setting it up and I get to be artsy using the journal itself. That started to be a little bit of a challenge. But setting up spreads like this, spreads that don't necessarily have anything to do with planning or really tracking. You might have noticed I also haven't included a tracker in a while. I still use my yearly trackers at the front of the journal. I definitely try and keep up with my weather tracker and my period tracker. But I think in the new year, I might be changing things up a little. I might not call this my bullet journal because, to be honest, it's not. If you stay true to the original name of what bullet journaling is, this isn't really a bullet journal anymore. Actually, my other planner, that is technically a bullet journal because I do a lot more planning in that one. So I think I might start referring to this journal as maybe a memory keeping journal, but not really a diary, or just a quick rundown of my month. Let me know if you have any ideas what I should name this journal. Does a name already exist? I'm sure a name exists out there. Maybe you know. Maybe you can let me know. Memory keeping journal? Maybe. Because it's not like a diary. I have to think about it. Let me know what you think. So as you can see, I've used some ink, potted ink from a pot to actually color in the background. I could have used paint, but I have these ink pots and I like that it gives the paper a nice deep black. Now, obviously I'm using a craft paper journal, and this craft paper is a lot more absorbent than your normal white or even cream paper, which I don't know if I love that, because it took the black paint very well, but once I added the white pen on top, which if you've ever used a jelly roll pen, you definitely can. you are able to usually layer with a Jelly Roll pen. As you can see on the cover page, I'm using the same pen as on that paper, and the craft paper just absorbs the ink very quickly, so it doesn't stand out as much. I did also leave this page for a few hours because I didn't finish in time before I had to go to work. So the next day I did go over the writing with the pen again, and it stood out a little bit more. It was a little bit lighter after the paper, I guess, had fully settled. The ink had settled in the paper, but still not as bright as I would have liked it to be. But finally, we are moving on to my next spreads. The first one is memories. I talked about memory keeping and writing down my thoughts for the month, similar to what I did last month. I'm using the same font throughout this spread. I like using the same font for all of my pages, just to make sure there's a good continuity between all of the spreads. When it comes to slasher films, that wasn't always my favorite. Growing up, I wasn't a big fan of slasher films. I preferred more creepy, like The Exorcist, those kinds of films. But watching Scream was actually quite nostalgic, especially when it came to the later ones, because I'm a little bit younger, so a lot of the later ones got a lot more nostalgic for me, and I just really enjoyed how they made fun of all of the classic slasher films. So I have a section for thoughts. I have a section for books. This is not books that I finish in this month specifically. I kind of just include any book that I'm reading or the books that I'm reading, including audiobooks. Then I also have a games section. At the moment, I'm playing Star Wars, which is not very creepy. Doesn't really have a spooky month feel to it. So I was thinking of trying out some horror games. I have a few on Steam that I haven't played yet. So I might install one of those. Let me know if you have any horror game recommendations. I have played Fran Bow. I have played The Beast Inside. I've played a little bit of Five Nights at Freddy's. I finished Little Misfortune and Little Nightmares. And I played a little bit of Poppy Playtime, which freaked me out, as well as Sally Face. So I was thinking of either playing more of Poppy Playtime or Freddy's. But I also have the Friday the 13th game, and I know that you can play that one with friends. So I was thinking of asking my husband to play some serial killer games with me. So we'll see. I'll let you know. And let me know if you have some other recommendations. I definitely am not claiming this spread. I saw a very similar spread on Pinterest with this same kind of Scream theme. I didn't copy it exactly. I just kind of used it as inspiration with some of the blood stains, which is not blood, it's ink. But some of those stains to make it look like a serial killer's letter. As you can tell, I had a lot of fun with this spread. Next up is my movies spread. So this is definitely a needed spread for this month. I've been watching a lot more movies. I'm not a big movie person. I don't watch many movies. I watch quite a lot of series. I'll watch old classic movies. For example, at the beginning of this month, I think it was at the beginning of this month, I started watching The Munsters, which I'm South African. We didn't grow up with The Munsters. I only knew the Addams Family. So watching The Munsters, I really like them. They're so sweet. It's it's such a fun little sitcom. So yeah, I started watching The Munsters. But this month I'm trying to also watch a lot more movies, do some classic, old classic horror films, Chainsaw Massacre, all that. So to track all of those that I watch, I made this spread. And later when I do the flip through, you'll see some of the movies that I added. Some I've watched recently and others I plan to watch. If you are still here, I have but one question for you.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Let me know. Thanks so much for being here. Have an amazing spooky season. I know so many of us love this season so much. And as always, I hope that you have a very crafty day.